Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the Primary Arms SLX Griffin scope. Okay, so I've had this scope for a couple of days. This is different than the other scopes that we were talking about. This one has a mill grid in it. Let me show you what this mill grid looks like. So it's got a mill grid that looks like that. Get some focus. So you got your horseshoe, your chevron, you got a spine that goes down. So each of those lines is spaced 1 mil apart. Okay, so that's a unit of measurement. And that's not a bullet drop compensator. That's a unit of measurement. And then you got all these dots over here that are also spaced 1 mil apart. Okay. Now the lines here on the spine are also matched up to the width of a man's shoulders, right? So 18 inches apart. So you can use those lines to estimate, to quickly estimate distance and put your man, figure out where his shoulders fit in here. But the mill grid, right, allows me to use other things besides the size of a man to estimate my range. And that's the thing that makes this scope really stand out from my other one, right? This is my other one. This was the second focal plane. I've had this for about 3 years plus. So I've got a lot of experience and trigger time with the Primary Arms variable scopes. And this one over here, I got about 2 weeks ago. This is also the SLX. These two scopes are identical, right? The difference being is the reticle. This reticle over here only has the wind dots. It doesn't have a mill grid. So that's great. I can, if I know my distance, I can use the wind dots to adjust for wind. But this other one over here with this mill grid, and I'll show you what it looks like inside the glass in a little bit. This allows me to range estimate based on all sorts of other things where I know the size of them. For example, a commercial door is about 84 inches tall. Okay, a tractor trailer, right, is with a sleeper cab is 75 feet long, 13 and a half feet high. So if I know, let's say my trucks, all my semi trucks are 13 and a half feet high. If I look through the glass, right, and let's say I measure out, I measure that height to 8 mils high, right, I can use a calculator to figure out my distance based on the height of that truck. Now you might say, hey, during the apocalypse, you're not going to have a calculator. I think I will, because these things are solar powered. And I'm gonna tell you guys, I've got these solar powered calculators from like almost 30 years ago, right? Back then these things were like $250, I remember. But I got solar powered calculators from like 30 years ago that are still working. So these things are gonna be around for a while. So let's say I got a truck, 13 and a half, because I know all semis are about 13 and a half feet high. So 13.5, all right, times, gotta convert this to inches, times 12. Did something wrong there. Let's try it again. 13.5 times 12 inches. All right, that was right. Okay, now times the conversion factor, which is 27.77. 27.77. Okay, that gives me a number close to 5,000, right? Actually 4598. So it's almost 4,500. It gives me a number. So now I take this number, and I'm going to divide it by the number of mils that I measure in the scope, right? So let's say I see 8 mils. So you take this 4,500 number, divide that by 8, okay? And I see that I can figure out that my truck is 560 yards away, okay? Let's do that same number. Let's say that 4,500 number that we came up with. Let's say I had measured this at only 5 mils high, right? Divided by 5. Okay, my truck now is 900 yards away. Let's use that same number. Divided by, let's say I measure this to 8 mils. We already did that, 562. 45, let's say I measure at 10 mils. Divided that by 10 mils. Okay, 450 yards away, okay? So I'm able to use other things, like doors, like a commercial door, 84 inches tall, right? So same deal, 84 times the 27.77. And let's say I measure the door, right? Divide that. Let's say I measure the door at 6 mils high, right? 6, right? That's going to tell me that my door is 388 yards away. So that's the great thing about the mills. It allows you to measure anything that you know the height of, including trees. I mean, the tree line here in Pennsylvania, the trees grow to an average of about 65 feet tall. Okay, so when you look at the distance, your trees are going to be about 65 feet tall. Same thing, you can figure out how far your trees are. Now, obviously, and then you're going to come up with a number in yards that's going to probably be in the thousands, and then you can convert that into miles, and you can see how many miles you got to hike. Okay, so that's so here's the thing. I've already decided that this scope is going to be the scope that I use to train people, because it allows me to do lots of things with people, right? I can really take training to a different level, where I'm having them figure out the range of, figure out the range to different things. So it just adds a new, interesting thing. Now, the only issue is with you don't have the wind dots, right? Which was a convenience in this other scope, right? In the SLX scope, which you had the wind dots in there. Well, the thing is, you just gotta memorize some numbers. So here's the thing, with a 10-mile-per-hour wind, right? Using 5.56 at 250 yards, right? At that 10-mile-per-hour wind, if it's coming in, if you got a full value where it's coming in sideways, you got to basically adjust a half mil. Okay, at 500 yards, you got to adjust 1 full mil. So here's the thing: at 500 yards, if your wind is 20 miles per hour, now you're going to adjust 2 mils. Or if your wind's only 5 miles per hour, you're gonna cut that number by half to only half a mil. So if you can just memorize your 10 mile per hour mil values, your mil adjustments, right? Just at the 10 miles per hour, and you know what they are at 250, 500, 700, which is 2 mils, 900, which is about 3 mils. You can use that grid to quickly do your wind adjustments. Now, if you're using 9mm, I've only figured this thing out so far for at 150 yards, that's a half mil adjustment, right, for a full value. At 250 yards, that's with 9mm, it's a 1 mil adjustment. Okay. At some point in the future, I'll come back and I'll do an updated thing on this one. I've had a chance to really test this out. But the thing is that information is out there, right? There's people have been using mills to do wind adjustments for a very long time. So there's going to be lots of people out there. They may not have the numbers from the 9mm, because that's not so common. But 5.56, you'll be able to get lots of data on that. Now, real quick, how do you figure out your wind? I use wind ribbons, right? So I got these ribbons hanging on the trees here. If the ribbon's hanging straight down, that's 0. Out here, if it's going horizontal, that's 20 miles per hour. So basically, I just divide that. So that's 0, 5, 10, 15, 20. All right, that's how I know what my wind is. There's other methods that people use, but that's the easiest one for me. That's what I use. I haven't really had a chance to figure out how to use Mirage, which is another method that people use. So I use the wind ribbons. But this is a scope that allows you to really do cool stuff like that, and that's the reason why I decided I'm gonna make this scope over here the scope that I use to train people if we're doing any of that work where we're going from short distance shooting to long distance shooting. That's going to be ideal. Now, the nice thing about this scope, it's I think $450 to $470. So for what I do, it's really important, because a lot of the people, here's the thing, most of the people that come to me are new to this game, right? They're not people that have been shooting for a long time. They're generally new. So it's really hard for me to tell people, hey, go buy a $1,400 scope, because I've already ordered that M8. All right, I've got a $1,400 scope coming in from Primary Arms, but I want to be able to tell people, here you go. Here's a nice $450 to $470 scope. Get this, and you can get started with this. Or, right, if they're not ready to do that, right? Because here's the, I can say, hey, here, borrow my scope, borrow my gun so we can do the training session, right? So I don't mind lending somebody, a $450 scope on a whatever $800-900 gun. I don't want to lend them a $1,400 scope, right? So that's why I want to have 2 scopes. I got one scope I can lend out, another scope I can use myself. And the good thing is that both of these scopes have mills in them, so I can use my rifle for spotting, right? and I can communicate with them, right? So basically, I tell them to take a shot. I know what they're looking at. I'm looking at my scope, and I can see where the bullets drop, and I can say, hey, you're hitting, you know, just 1 mil to the right or just 1 mil to the left. So this type of a scope that has a mil grid in it or mil measurements really allows you to, you know, move your training to the next level. You can work with somebody that's done that type of work, and they can, you know, you can do all, just, you know, it just adds a new dimension to your training, right? You can just do a lot more fun stuff. Now the other really cool thing about this is that the click adjustments are also in mils, right? Not MOA, because like on this one over here, on this scope, my first one, all right, this one over here, the adjustments are this, all right, it says, where are you? A 1/2 inch at 100 yards, right? So that's in MOA. Whereas this one, each click is 1/10 of a mil. So that works out to, I think, like a 0.36 of an inch versus the 1/2 inch. So here's the thing, a lot of times people say, hey, you know, MOA measurements are finer than mil measurements. And yes, that's true, right? Like a 1 mil versus 1 minute of angle is a smaller unit of measurement versus a 1 mil. But however, the scopes that are in MOA, right, they're usually a 1/2 inch, right? This would have to be a 1/4 inch adjustment to be a finer adjustment than the other one, which is a 1 mil, which is like a 0.36. Okay, so you got to get an MOA scope in that has 1/4 inch adjustments instead of 1/2 inch adjustments if you really want to get finer. And then again, you can also get another scope, let's say, that has 1/2 mil adjustments. So that's not something that really makes a difference, right? You got to understand what those numbers mean. Don't just say, hey, you know, MOA is a smaller, finer than mil, hence I can, you know, that all comes down to how the clicks in your scope work, okay? So that's one of the things. So as I was starting to say, I really like that the clicks in here are in mils, right? And here's the thing, that when I was sighting this rifle in, all right, and by the way, this is a 9mm. I decided to put this on a 9mm because it's really cool, because I can shoot the steel plates up close, then quickly adjust and shoot out to 200 yards. So the nice thing about the 9mm is I can get pretty close with steel. So that's why at least for now, I've decided to put this on a 9mm rifle. So I was zeroing this in yesterday at 25 yards, right? But that's where I usually zero in my 9mm rifles. So I took a shot, and the first shot, and I saw that, actually I took 2 shots, and I saw that in the scope, right? Because at that distance, I can see where the holes are in the scope. And I could see that in the scope, I was off by 1 full mil, right? I could use the grid. I could use this grid over here, right? That's in the scope, to measure the distance between my bullseye and where the bullet went. And what I did is, okay, I'm off 1 full mil. That's 10 clicks. So I made 10 clicks to the left, and boom! I mean, my bullet went right there, right to the center. Okay. And then I did this a couple times, you know. So basically, I messed up the zero, and I said, hey, let's try it again. I went further out there. I went to 50 yards. I said, let's get a zero at 50 yards. So same deal. I was off. I was able to use the grid, right, to measure how many mils I was off, right, and then make the corresponding amount of clicks, and that would bring me back to wherever I want the zero. So I ended up bringing this back to a 25-yard zero. You know, and I was shooting yesterday. So now one of the questions that came up in my mind while I was shooting this yesterday, because it was raining, okay, and obviously to make adjustments here, you gotta, you know, you have to have the caps off. I'm wondering to what extent this is waterproof if the caps are off, because typically with most optics that have caps on them, the caps have to be on the optic in order for the optic to be fully waterproof. Okay, and I can feel it over here. I can feel that the rubber seal seems like this needs to be on it. So I know these scopes are advertised as waterproof, but I'm wondering to what extent the cap has to be on it. And what I did send an email to Primary Arms customer service. Okay. All right, now I have not been getting along very good with Primary Arms customer service. Right, I had an issue with another scope with them. I sent 3 emails over like 3 days asking about if these turrets are waterproof with the caps off of it. Okay, and I have not gotten any response. Now, I believe that customer service has like has blocked me, or basically just, you know, I don't even think they're seeing my emails from my address, and this came from a different scope where, you know, they weren't giving me the information that I needed, and I kind of put them on blast. And now I think that dude over there, he's you know, he's basically just completely, you know, blocked my email. So I know Dimitri watches my videos. Dimitri, can you please let me know, post below, if the scope is waterproof, and to what extent, if the caps are removed. I don't know why that dude is not responding to me. It's not like I was ever rude to him. You know, it's not like I sent him an email and said, "Yo, jerk off, answer my questions." I never did that. So I don't know why he's upset with me. But yeah, but Primary Arms customer service is very upset with me. Now, for you guys out there, at least you guys know that I'm not a paid shill. If I'm telling you guys that this is a pretty cool scope, it's a pretty cool scope, okay? Because obviously I'm not getting paid by those guys. So anyway, moving on, okay? So far, I really like the scope. Now, as far as the brightness, let's talk about the brightness for a second. Let's put this on. Get you over here. All right, so turning this on, daytime brightness. I got the sun right over there. It would help the cap off. Sun right over there, and pointing this in the direction of the sun, I can still see that. I can see that circle. Okay. Now, if I turn this off to the etched reticle, I kind of lose it. Okay, I'm losing it in the trees, which I'm kind of looking at next to the sun. And I realize that this might be absurd, but hey, you know what? I could have a predator in that freaking tree up there, you know, that I may need to shoot. So I need this thing to work in the direction of the sun. So if you put this, if you got it illuminated, you can see it. All right. So the nice thing about this is that the entire grid lights up. So it's not just your horseshoe and your chevron, right? The whole thing, the whole Christmas tree down here lights up. So that's really cool. I like the way that they designed it. Like here I've got, this is the first one that I had. This is the just a second focal plane. Again, in the direction of the sun. This one actually seems a little less bright. I mean, the horseshoe is thicker. I mean, I can still see it. But I think that the other one actually lights. It's a thinner horseshoe, but I think it does get a little bit brighter. Now, if you turn it off, again, in the direction of the sun, or if you're moving quickly through shadows, you're going to lose it, okay? Same deal with this one. If you're off, right? Go off, right? And I mean, in the direction of the sun, I can't see, I just found it, can't see it. If you're moving quickly, over here where I got shadows, really, really easy to lose. Now, somebody suggested that I switch, like, let's say, to a 2-power to make it a little bit, and yeah, in 2-power I can definitely find it a little bit easier, but that does get really weird if you're going upstairs. All right, yeah, one of my viewers suggested that I should consider going up to 2-power and using it that way. What I think Primary Arms should have done with this is that they should have put the posts that come in, right, the German 4 posts that come in from the sides, and I think that would have made this like a 10 out of 10. All right, that's the one thing that I think that's missing from this. If they had those German posts, because it is kind of small, you know, compared the first one in the second focal plane. That one is bigger. The horseshoe is thicker. That is easier to find. But for both of them, I mean, I think that any variable scope that they create from going forward, they got at any price level, they've got to have those posts that come in to show you where the center is. But with the illumination on, right? Again, what is it? daytime too. You know, in the direction of the sun, it's not so bad. I mean, I can see it. The problem is that, you know, the batteries die really quickly on this because they don't have the go to sleep and shake awake. So the battery, it's very easy to forget your batteries. Over here, it's with a red dot. Now let me tell you, I mean, in the direction of the sun, I mean, it's almost as good. It's using the hollow sun. Now, let me see what this is. I don't think, yeah, no, I didn't have this all the way up either. So yeah, when I put this all the way up, I can actually, because I'm looking at the sun through the trees right now, so I don't have, like, I'm not staring directly into the sun, but sun's like moving over the trees, so I'm looking through the leaves, and looking almost directly at the sun through the leaves. I can see the reticle. Let's try this one again. Looking at this, and I realize that this is ridiculous shit. You know, I'm asking for a lot, but hey, I mean, that's what I do. So yeah, if you're going directly to the sun, yeah, this is definitely going to fade out faster. So again, I know I'm asking for a lot. I'm just looking to see where the limitations are of this thing. Okay? So compared to, but unless you're looking straight at the sun, like I was right now, it's not bad. I mean, once you illuminate this thing, it's not bad at all. It's just, it would have been nice if you had those German posts to help you a little bit though. And it's nice that the entire Christmas tree lights up. What else do we want to say about this? Oh, let's talk about this a little bit. Let's get these caps off. I'm still waiting for Primary Arms to send me the caps from the first one, because when I bought this first one 3 years ago, the caps broke like within the first month, and they told me at the time that they were back ordered. They had me in the queue to send it out. I never got them, so I'm still waiting on caps for that first one. But anyway, let's take this off for a second. I want to talk a little bit about the throw lever. Okay, so I did get the throw lever that goes on this, and I recently got it on this one. I just got this like almost a month ago. Now this one over here, being 3 years old, this is way easier. I think it loosened up a little bit over time, so maybe that's the reason why they start off so tight. Because just from a lot of use, this is like, you know, really easy to flip back and forth. You know, so here's the thing. With Primary Arms, you don't get the throw lever. It costs something like $30 to buy this separate. I think that's one of the things that they should include. Right? They should include the throw lever. On this one over here, this came with its own little lever over here. In order to install this one, you have to remove the one that's on there, right? You got to take out those little screws. Initially, I thought maybe I ordered the wrong throw lever, because when I removed the throw lever that comes with it, I tried to put this on, and it wasn't going on really good. All right, I was having a little difficulty getting the throw lever on there, right? And then what I did is I went and I looked at what I ordered, right? And it said that it was specifically for the SLX Griffin, right? I mean, it gave a whole list, you know, of what it was good for, and that included this. So I said, wait, well, this is what's supposed to be on. So I did manage to get this on, but just be aware, you have to remove the throw lever that comes on there. It's not going to fit over it like this one does. Right? On this one over here, it just, you know, because that's not removable. It just fits right on it. I mean, this throw lever was really designed for this scope. I think it just kind of made it work for the other one. Now, here's one of the things that is, like that I realized yesterday. On the original one, right, on the, just the second focal plane ACSS. Let me pause this because there's a truck or something going through there. All right. I had a truck coming through this area where there's Jake brake, so I said, you know, let me just pause the video for a second. All right, so on the first one over here, the way this works is you're on 1 power here. To go to the 8, right, you rotate counterclockwise, all right? So to go to magnify up, you go counterclockwise. With the Griffin, right, you're on 1. To magnify up, you have to go clockwise, all right? So it's got to go that way. So here's the thing. you know, normally with the variable scopes, you can always keep these on 1 power, right? So you always want to be on 1 power, so when you come up, you know, you're there, right? You don't have to, because if you may not have the time to go to dial down, you'll usually have time to dial up. So you always want to keep this in your 1 power. So because of the rotation, right, the way this works is it rotates, this one rotates, which way, clockwise. So when you hang this over here, this is kind of going in the direction of your body, and I think that's gonna snag stuff. And here's the thing, I mean, I rotated this off as far as I could, right? That's an 8 power right there, right? So I had to leave just enough room so I can get my finger in there, right? So I had just enough room so I can get my finger in 8 power, but that's 1 power, that's where it's gonna live. And so here's the thing, this is a righty-lefty problem, because if I was a lefty, life is wonderful, right? For the lefty, this is great because it's going to be on that side. All right, so this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's just, this is, you know, you can't make, you know, when it comes to stuff like this, you're not going to make everybody happy. So if you're righty, your throw lever is going to kind of be in the direction of your body, versus with the original ACSS and the second focal plane one, right? If you're in 1 power, which is there, it's away from your body, right? So when I come, see, so here, roll it over, I'm in 8 power, flip it back over. But if I'm a lefty, that sucks, right? If you're a lefty, now your life sucks because now this is in your body. So the righty is going to be a lot happier with this, like this. The lefty's not. So just one of those things to be aware of with the throw lever. If you're a righty, the way this throw lever is situated, it's going to be in the direction of your body. Now, first of all, like I said, I think the throw lever should be included with the scope. The other thing is that they do have other options. They have throw levers that fold down. I've seen those. I've never worked with them, so there's always a cost benefit. So I can't say that the ones that fold down are better because I haven't used it. I'm sure there's a good chance if I tried that, I might have some issue with that. But right now, just using this one, you know, this in the direction of your body. First thing is, like, if this up against your body, right, if you got the strap and this hits your body or your gear, this is going to shift it over, so that when you come up, right, if it hits your gear and it moves over, when you come up, you're going to be in 2 power. You're not going to be in 1 power. Okay, so one of the things to be aware of, I don't have a solution to this other than a folding lever that folds down. And, you know, like I said, I don't know if I go to try that, if I'm going to not like that for some other reason. So that's one of the things you just got to be aware of. You got to be, you know, you got to work around. Let me take this apart, give you guys a peek inside. All right, so right now we are in, that's with the illumination on. All right, and I'm in 1 power. You can see how the whole grid kind of lights up. Now let me see if I dial it back a little bit so you guys can see it a little bit bigger. Focus is going to be off. But you can see how, yeah, focus is going to be coming out. Yeah, let me see if I point it towards the ground. Oh, here we go. Nope, go the other way. There it is. Now I've blown it up to 8 power. So you can see how it gets bigger. See if I can line this up so you guys can see the grid. I'm looking at this behind the camera trying to line it up, so this ain't like an easy thing. There it is, there's your grid. We had it there for a second. There it is. You may have to pause the camera. Let me bring this back out. So let me turn the illumination off. So with the illumination off, Like, where is it? There it is. It's really hard to find. So yeah, the German posts that come in from the sides would have been really, really helpful. It would have really pushed this optic to the next level, you know. Now let me show you guys real quick on the, and I did do this on the prior video. I'm going to take apart this rifle over here, which has the, this is the second focal plane. So the Griffin one's the first focal plane. So there you go. So first focal plane, you see how that horseshoe is thicker, a little bit bigger. I'm sorry, second. This is the second focal plane. So you see the horseshoe is thicker. So I find it's a little bit easier, a little bit easier to find. Oh, lost it. There it is. So up until this point, I was kind of questioning the purpose of shifting, going from a second focal plane to the first focal plane, because I was like, you know what? When you go to the first focal plane, which is this one, in the 1 power, the optic is just a little bit too small, right? And here's the thing with this optic only goes out to 8 power. So if you're at a distance where you're going to be sizing something up, measuring, you know, worrying about bullet drop, you're going to probably be at 200 yards plus. And at 200 yards plus, you're going all the way to up to 8, right? You're not going to be dialing back if something's at 200 yards. At best, if I have a mover, let's say at 75 yards, maybe I would go to 3, all right? But then again, I'm not sizing anything up. You know, I'm not at that. You know, I'm just putting it on. So the second focal plane works just as good for that, right? If I put this at 3, and I'm trying to track something, you know, that works fine too. So I was kind of, you know, it's not like you got a scope that goes, let's say, from 5 to like 25, where it's like, okay, if you got a scope that goes all the way up to 25, but you're only working at 300 yards, you don't want to be at 20 at full magnification. You're going to dial that back to, let's say, you know, a 12, right? A 12 power. So that makes a lot of sense that it would need to be first focal plane so that you can do your measurements at 300 yards and confirm your range. Whereas with a scope that goes only from 0 only up to 8 power, in most cases you're going to be doing all your measurements in 8 power. So I don't think that there's a huge benefit to being in the first focal plane. However, okay, I did find the benefit yesterday while I was like, basically I was zeroing in the scope, and I told you guys I zeroed in a couple of times at different distances, right? Because I zeroed in at 25 yards, then I moved the dials around, and I said, okay, let me redo this again at 50 yards, and then I said, let me get another zero at 100 yards. So what I found that, let's say at 50 yards, for example, right? In order for me, or even at 25 yards, I want to see the bullet holes, because I can use the grid to make my adjustments, okay? So I don't want to be all the way up to 8 power if I'm only looking at something at 25 yards or let's say 50 yards. So I dialed it back to like a 5 power, and I can see my bullet holes, and I can use the grid to take my measurements. So I'm like, yeah, this is kind of pretty cool that I can do that. I can, you know. So that was the first time where like I needed to dial back, where I didn't want to be full 8 power, but I wanted to dial back just enough so I could find my target, because otherwise I'm fishing for my target if I'm too magnified. I can find my target, I can see my bullet holes, see the bullseye, measure the distance in mils between the bullseye and the bullet holes, and make my adjustments in the scope. So that did come in very useful. So it's like, yeah, this is so bad after all. This is kind of cool. But I would, you know, I think for the 3rd or 4th time in this video, I really want those German posts, okay? I think that is something that should be standard on any on any variable optic. You got to have those posts to guide people to the center. You know, I can't imagine it would cost that much more to etch that into the glass. You know, just put posts. It's nothing too fancy. So I think that's it. The mounts that I'm using is the ones from Primary Arms. They are. I think. Let's see. I took some. I put this on a postage scale. So the scope with the mount came out to 1.9 pounds. Without the mount, it came out to 1.3 pounds. So you're almost, you know, I mean, you're up there a little bit with the weight. I mean, you're almost at 1.5 pounds with this thing. So, you know, now they do make mounts that are a little bit lighter. So that might be something that you can do, because it looks like there's a difference of like, what, 5 ounces between those two numbers. So that weight is just in the mount. Other thing I did with this is, let's put this back together. The way I used to position the edge of the eyepiece here to the charging handle, I pushed it forward one more notch, and I'm finding that actually, am I 1 power? Yeah, 1 power. I'm finding that actually helps reduce the scope shadow a little bit more. So normally, like with a lot of these scopes, it's like in the past you had to have this like almost up to your eyeball. With this scope, it seems like you actually got to push it forward just a little bit more, you know, a little bit more than I would with some other scopes, to be able to come up and eliminate that scope shadow when you're coming up. So I think that's a pretty cool thing, right? So I did end up pushing it. Okay, you see where the back is over here. Pushed it up just a little bit more forward. On this other one here, and I'm just kind of putting that out there. So that's something that you guys may want to experiment a little bit with, and let me know if you agree with me or disagree with me, or you know, maybe I'm not seeing it correctly. I don't know. This one over here, you can see it match. It lines up almost directly with the charging handle. Nope, that's the 1 power. So with this one, if I come up, yeah, I think I'm a little too close. So with this one over here, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna push it up one more notch on the rail over here. Another thing is, you definitely want to have the ambidextrous charging handle, because here's the thing on most scopes. Like if I'm not gonna have a big scope over here, I don't want a charging handle that sticks out too much, because that tends to snag on things, right? However, if you're gonna have stuff over here, now it's kind of hard to reach it. So on any rifle where I've got a scope that comes back here, I put the ambidextrous charging handle. I haven't done it with this rifle yet, but on this one over here, so this one's been on here for 3 years plus already. I really like having that big ambidextrous charging handle. It works really good. It doesn't seem to snag as much, because the scope itself is gonna hit stuff and keep the charging handle off your body to some extent. But if the scope is not on here, then I find that the charging handle starts catching on things, and that it becomes annoying. So this is a Tri-B. I got this, I think it's like $35. So, and I've had this for 3 years. It's working good, hasn't broken yet. I do break charging handles. It's one of the things that I do break, just because I use the guns so much. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to probably do more videos on this, just because I see this as a scope that's going to get used a lot. And as I use it in different circumstances, different, you know, I'll do videos to keep you guys up to date on how things are progressing. But yeah, basically this is like kind of like my first impressions. I've had this for like a couple of days now, but I really know what to look for, because I've had this one here for 3 years already. So you know, I kind of have certain expectations. You know, so where I go directly to, you know, what I'm looking for. So anyway, drop some comments below. Let me know what you guys think. If you're not a member of the channel, subscribe, and make sure you guys are following me on all my channels, because sometimes I get suspensions. You know, I do all sorts of bad things that YouTube punishes me for. So my backup channels, or my 3 channels, are Absolute Gun Rights, Pocono Shooting, and then I got the original Safa channel, which goes back to 2006. And then on the uncensored platforms, on Rumble, on Pocono Guns, on Odyssey, Pocono Tactical, and on BitChute, I'm also Pocono Tactical. We'll talk again.